gentlemen, we're going to get this kicked off. I'd like to introduce our guest. Her name is Kyle Elise Niederprum. Kyle Elise Niederprum is President and CEO of Kyle Communications, an Indianapolis-based consulting firm specializing in media relations and relationships. She was a newspaper journalist and editor for more than 20 years before becoming vice president of one of the city's largest advertising companies. Niederprum started her own firm in 2005 and recently won Best of Show for a crisis communication handbook she created for the National Panel Conference of its 26 member groups. She has earned more than 30 awards in both journalism and public relations field, including national and state awards for volunteer service. Niederprum is a member of the Kappa Delta sorority.
Thanks. Well, welcome, gentlemen, and I'm glad everybody survived enough to get up this morning to kind of keep it rolling, because I see some doors still with the privacy signs up by me and heard some wings being ordered at 3 o'clock in the morning, so no judgment. Quick question for you. Could anybody raise their hand who happens to be or work for their student media on campus? Anybody? Nobody in this room? You do?
Like student government.
You cover student government?
Yeah.
For?
The entire, I'm the vice president.
Okay, you come over here. You're going to be part of our focus group later on and today. Anybody else? Nobody else in media? How many people have PR jobs with their campus chapters? A couple of you? And then we're just going to go around the room really quickly, and I want you to tell me where you're from. You don't need to give me your chapter letters. Just tell me what city, what college you're from, and we'll just go up and down. You, sir.
Ames, Iowa, Iowa State.
Have a seat over.
Kettering University, Flint, Michigan. You, maybe.
Where?
You guys want to chapter at Cal State Fullerton?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Purdue University.
I know that.
University of South Dakota. Same.
Terre Haute, Indiana State.
I know that too.
Kettering University.
Where?
Kettering, Flint, Michigan.
City? Michigan? Say.
Kearney, Nebraska.
Okay. You, sir? All of you?
Yeah.
Oh, all of you. Okay, skipping ahead. Speaking for the group.
Georgia Southern University.
Okay.
George Washington.
Okay.
North Georgia.
Okay, speak up a little bit. Okay.
University of North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, University of
All right.
Jackson University, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia?
Jackson, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Florida State University of Tallahassee.
Okay.
Jackson University of Philadelphia.
All right. And we know you're from Memphis, and you, sir, in the back, you too?
Florida Atlantic University.
Florida?
From Memphis as well.
Okay. All right. Well, because we got a lot of, I don't know what rolling on back here, I'd move up a little bit. I know I will be yelling, and it's Mike, but I'm going to be talking to you during this, so I want to be able to hear you. So if you just move up one, that would be helpful. And we'll leave those big empty chairs in the back of the room for whoever. All right. You get my phone. All right. Everybody, if you've got your smartphone or your tablet with you, we'd like you to take this survey. It's about 5 questions. If you could pop on real quickly. Have you already done it? Okay. Everybody already done it? Okay, next exercise, because I hope I see you later this afternoon at 5 o'clock for our second session where we're going to do some video and show some video. If you could, are you on Twitter? Okay, so go to your Twitter account. I'd like you to follow me at Kyle Com, KYLECOMM. And then you follow back, if they follow. I have an Android, so let me show you.
Oh, this is actually.
No, you're good. You're good. Sorry. I know everybody probably got an iPhone in here, so.
No, I'm on your same boat.
Okay. Android buddy,
friends.
there you go. Twitter me up. Okay, so if everybody's done, everybody's following, he'll follow back, and we'll get started. So let me tell you a little bit about what I do and where I've been. So I just recently started talking to fraternity men this spring when we went to the NIC Leadership Academy. Did anybody attend that from here? Okay, so you're at that event in Indianapolis. So fraternity issues are a little bit different than sorority issues. A little bit different, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about public relations today and how to get your story out there, how you can be a lot more proactive, what you need to know, what a journalist needs from you. So that's why we have our one journalist in the room up in front. And then also to be able to do this in the most professional way that you possibly can, even about something that's very upsetting to you, your chapter, or your group, where you have to kind of separate how you feel about it personally and how you need to project about it professionally, or for your chapter or for your organization. So I'm going to ask you a brand question as we get into this. So we're all staying at the Peabody Hotel, right? So what would you say about the brand of the Peabody Hotel? We're looking mostly for adjectives here. What would you say about it? Authentic?
Elegant.
Elegant?
Classy.
Sorry?
Classy.
Classy? Sorry? I didn't catch it.
Opulence.
Opulence. Good word. Good word. Okay, so we're in an older, long time established, probably higher end hotel. Do you believe that everything about the brand of this hotel projects that? Mostly? Anything that doesn't, that hasn't in your experience so far? You, sir.
Yeah.
The journalist, of course, has the first exception. Yes.
The one thing that I saw that really doesn't portray that classiness here
Is?
are the room phones. The room phones, at least in ours, like are completely outdated, and I expected a little bit more.
Interesting observation. So anybody notice that about their room phones? About half of you notice that about the room phones, right? Inconsistent with the brand. Okay, anything else that seems inconsistent? Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's like 2 doors to get to the stairs.
Okay. A little bit tough in the mezzanine roll around. Okay. Not particularly laid out well. Old hotel, probably understandable. Anything else? Elevators are not enough. Yeah. True. You, sir?
Some of the paint on the doors, they have chips in them, and they're not painted. They're painted well.
Okay. Now, let's just talk about a difference between how a man would see a difference in brand and how a woman would see the difference in brand. 'Cause I'm the only girl in the room, so I'm going to mention some things that I noticed as a girl. Now, the last time I went to a fraternity event, it was at the Ritz-Carlton, and what's the first thing you probably think I may have noticed about the high-end Ritz-Carlton hotel that kind of affected me as a woman? I don't think you'll guess it, so I'll give you a hint. It had something to do with a product in the bathroom that I thought was missing for a girl. Any idea what that would be? No. Body lotion, hand lotion. No lotion. Lotion, nowhere. No lotion. So to me, high-end classy hotel where they usually have shampoo, conditioner, but what's missing? Lotion. So they're missing, they have, they're branded maybe more for men than they are for women. So if we're talking about a brand for your organization, Pi Kappa Alpha, let's start with the pros. What do you consider the positives? And you know them better than anybody. I don't know them at all, except from, an observer looking in. What would they be?
Leaders we produce. The leaders we produce.
Okay, leadership, good one. Louder.
Community service.
Community service, got it. Anybody else? Sorry?
Professionalism.
Professionalism, what else?
Athletics.
Athletics. Anything else? Or think about your campus, think about your particular chapter, think about something that you're very proud that your chapter's done. What would be a good brand image thrown out for that?
Academics. Scholars. Academics.
Academic, right? Yes, sir?
I'd say campus involvement. Like with our brand, like other people know about Pike because we're involved in other things as compared to other fraternities.
Gotcha. How many of you participated in the community service project here? Okay. Y'all have Twitter accounts? Tweet it out. Did you tweet it out yesterday when you did it? Okay. Tweet it out again today and say something different and use your national fraternity name. Tweet it to me. Put my name in it because we're going to be judging this in a little bit. We want you to get some messages out there in social media. We're going to be looking at them and seeing if we like them or if we could have tweaked them or if we could have said something a little bit different. Okay? So if everybody shipped it out on Twitter, anybody use it on Facebook? Okay. Did you use any images? Did you shoot pictures? Okay, very good. So everybody in this room, for you to know, whenever you participate in a positive project, should go immediately on your social, should immediately use your handle for national, and if you've got one for local, same thing. If there's an alum that you want to know, Get them connected. If there's a donor you want to know, get them connected. Only positives, right? Got to keep the positives rolling. All right. So that's something that we just talked about, branding, that we're going to talk about a little bit more. We'll skip this part because I already went over it. Now, this is what you guys are very good at, and you've already hit those in your brand conversation. A motivated member can do an awful lot of good. It keeps people happy, very consistent communication, positive messaging. Donors like it, your alums like it, you like it, right? You want to be proud of what your brothers are doing. You don't want to read the kind of headlines that we're going to be talking about later. You don't. Because why? It affects your brand. It not only affects your national organization's brand, it affects your chapter's brand, it affects your brand, right? It's your personal brand. Now, what are the weaknesses before we go to the weakness slide? Because I know you guys know them. What are fraternity weaknesses? Alcohol. Okay, let's take that back to the brand conversation. How many of you took a cab into the hotel? Okay. What did you tell your cabbie you were here to do? Did you tell your cabbie you were here to do a community service project? Did you tell your cabbie you were here to meet your brothers and network with 600 people from across the country? Or did you tell your cabbie you were going to hit Beale Street and go party? Something to think about. Now, maybe the cabbie didn't matter. Maybe the cabbie's not on social media. Maybe the cabbie doesn't care. But guess what? As a consultant coming to your organization to speak to you today, this is what my cabbie told me. He said, "What are you here for?" I said, "Oh, I'm a speaker at the Pi Kappa Alpha conference at the Peabody Hotel." He said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "I've already taken quite a few of those guys to the hotel." I said, "Well, they're here for," and before I started even say what I was here for, as you have that, little conversation on the way to the hotel, he said, "Yeah, I've already taken one crew to the liquor store." It's the first thing they wanted to do. Now, let's talk brand. How does that affect your brand? What do people think about that? You, sir.
It's going to automatically give you like a negative perception about that organization because that's what you think that revolves around. So
What do you guys think? How does that make you feel personally? I don't care. I'm going to Beale Street too. I went to the liquor store first. Doesn't really matter. Does it matter? I guess that's what I'm asking you. Does it matter what a cabbie thinks about your brand?
It reinforces the stereotype that we are trying to battle today.
Okay, there you go. You're battling it every day, right? Every day you have to deal with that. And these are your weaknesses. Everything someone in this room does, to your right, to your left, behind you, and in front of you, reflects on what you do, your personal and core values, and your organization's. Now, I know you don't know everybody in the room, but I know you know your brothers, I know you know your chapter guys, right? So you trust them, you've gone through a lot with them, you believe in their core values, they believe in your core values, and that's the level of trust that we have. But what happens when somebody goes a little rogue, or somebody gets caught doing something, or because we believe so much in social media as part of our conversation today that something gets captured in social media and goes viral, and then you can't take it back. And no matter what you say, it's not going to change the impression people have of you, the brand that you've put out there, and it affects everyone in this room. It affects your staff, it affects your national organization, it affects the fraternity world at large, and it affects your sorority partners as well. So just something to think about. I mean, in this day and age where everybody's watching everything and taping everything and tweeting everything, I mean, there's even a television show, I'm sure you guys have seen it, What Would You Do? And they go in and they kind of fake a situation and then they tape it and then they run it on national news. So, I mean, this has got me so overly sensitized that one day I stopped at a gas station and I saw a man in a wheelchair struggling getting his gas into his car. And I thought, well, I'm in a hurry. Should I help him? Should I go? Should I get an attendant out here? What should I do? And then my last thought was, I wonder if someone's taping this. What a terrible thing to think. Isn't that a terrible thing to think in this day and age? What if somebody's taping this right now? But guess what? Those cameras are everywhere. And in the hallways of this hotel, they're out front of your exits and entrances. And they're very aware of what you're doing. And people are very willing to share that for two reasons. One, They can. It's easy. They like the publicity they get as a result of doing it. And they get their 15 seconds of fame, which is about what it is. So the other thing about these long-term consequences and choices we make, you guys are a lot younger than I am, and I know that you're living life a lot differently than I am. I can tell because of the way the hotel is going, the energy in the place. You know, I would be in bed by 10 o'clock at night. You guys are still going to be out looking for stuff to do, hanging out, coming in, playing music, you know, whatever you do. But the bottom line is everything you do creates a perception of who you are. So as I was getting off the elevator to come in here, a woman said to me, "Who are all those guys?" So I thought, all right, this conversation could go one of two ways, right? It could go badly or it could go well. And luckily it went well because I said, well, they're Pi Kappa Alpha. She said, what is that? I said, that's a fraternity. And she said, oh, impressive. Why do you think she said impressive? Y'all wearing suits. Everybody's, well, not everybody, but most people are wearing suits. So that's kind of an impressive thing to see hundreds of guys wearing a suit, right? Because you look professional, you're here doing a certain thing, and you have all these name tags on, so it's telling people what you are and what you do, and people are watching you. So even at a conference, you got eyeballs on you all the time. So here's some headlines. I know you've read them, I know you've seen them, and I know we'll talk about some of yours later. Right? Chapter down. Shut down for drinking, shut down for hazing, alcohol. The NIU case, if you haven't followed it, involved a death, and now there's criminal charges. So something for you to be aware of, that since 2010, about 2010, there are more and more criminal cases involving hazing, and there are more and more lawsuits involving hazing, and there are more and more wrongful death claims in hazing. Whether you were a part of it, whether you were involved in it, whether you were somewhere else or at home visiting mom and dad, this stuff is going to pop up and it's just going to be there. So again, just something to be always aware of. So what do we do when we have a situation like this, and how do we respond? We kind of wait. We're sort of worried about getting in trouble. This is particularly true of chapter level people who are fact gathering or advisors. We kind of think, well, what would he do? Or what would the lawyer do? Or what should anybody do? And then maybe there's even a delay in talking to your national organization to get some advice or to get some counsel on it. And it may be too late by then, because in a nanosecond of media world time, that story's gone and out there. Is anybody familiar with the Delta Gamma email? Raise your hands, please. Okay. Is anyone not familiar with the Delta Gamma email in this room? One guy. Okay. So, yeah, maybe you're not on social enough. But anyway, that one, by the way, is still moving. And the woman who was responsible for that Delta Gamma email, and we don't need to go into detail here, has now surfaced and has a job as, someone must know this in this room. Come on, I know somebody knows this. As a, I can't hear you. Columnist writing about, anyone want to say it? Sex. Sex columnist. Okay, so that's good for the brand. Maybe, maybe not, probably not. So all of this stuff that we do when we hunker down and we wait sets us back a bit, right? If we wait, we don't get our story out. If we wait, nobody knows what we have to say about it. If we wait, nobody knows the circumstances. If we wait, the facts don't matter anymore. So that's very, very important to what you do. Now, if you don't believe me, because you may not, this is how CEOs think about brand. Won or lost in a crisis. You get there or you don't. You're able to get your message out or you fail at getting your message out at all. It's very, very important that you're able to get in the game and explain what the heck is going on. So, this is what you ask yourself when you're going through media stuff. What are the legitimate expectations of those who matter to us most? And you can even rank those in a priority. Is it your chapter president? Is it your advisory board? Are they the alums that you hang out with? Are they your donors? Who are those people and why are they most important? Or are they all important because they're constituents and stakeholders? If they're all important, then they all matter and they're all in the same stratosphere. And then the thing to ask yourself is, and we can run a few scenarios here, What would a reasonable person do in a similar circumstance? What would a reasonable person do? It doesn't even need to be what my dad would tell me to do or what my national organization would tell me to do. It's like your gut. Your gut is usually the best thing to go on, and it's practical and it's common sense. What would a reasonable person do? All right, so now I'm going to pick on you a little bit. What would a reasonable person do when they got a hold of that Delta Gamma email? You, sir. What would you do? If that came to your attention, I'm picking on people, sorry. If that came to your attention and you were the chapter president, what would be your immediate reaction to that?
I would make sure no one I would like monitor all the emails and force them down.
And how would you do that? Speak up.
Well, I hold a chapter meeting probably and make sure everyone agrees and understands why we share information.
Okay, so that's a stakeholder, right? Everybody in the chapter is a stakeholder. What else would you do? You, sir.
Confront it at the source that we with.
The person who put it out, talk to them. Why? Why is that important? That's a very good point. Why is that important?
What's their motive behind it, or what caused that reaction?
What caused it? What caused it? Very important. You, sir.
Issue a public apology of some kind, be it Facebook or it can get to the media itself as well.
Okay, very good. Why? Why do you issue a public apology?
Be straight up and forward with them, try to get your reputation improved before it gets drastically out of control.
Doesn't meet our standard, right? That's not what we do. That's not what we do. Doesn't meet our standard. Did you have your hand up? Sorry, you, sir.
Call nationals.
Call national and let them know. Get them in the loop. Let them know. You got to let them know what's going on. You got to let them know what's happening. You got to let them know before it goes crazy mad all over the country, right? Okay, so that's important stuff. What you guys said is what a reasonable person would do. What would a not reasonable person do in those circumstances? If you overreacted to that and you got very upset and very mad and you just wanted to shake this person to their core and say, what the were you thinking? And then what would an unreasonable person do in those circumstances? Sorry?
Send another email.
There you go. Keep it up. Keep it up. Keep the war up. Keep the flaming going. What else?
Start talking to our outsiders.
I'm sorry?
Start talking to outsiders.
Yep.
And to other people.
So, does anybody know the circumstances of how that Delta Gamma email got out into the world? If you had to suspect how it got out into the world, who would you suspect put it out there?
Another organization. Another sorority.
Another, sorry?
Another sorority.
Another sorority. Who else?
Another sister.
Another,
One of the sisters.
another sister. What else?
The girl herself.
You're missing kind of an obvious character here. Who else would have put that out? Sorry?
The girl herself.
The girl herself. Good guess. What else? Sorry?
The school.
Oh, the school. That's interesting. But we'll talk about that later. The school. Member of fraternity, because she was talking about little sisters and fraternity parties and how those go down. Guess who they believe it was at the bottom of their investigation when they sort of dug down deep into it?
Chapter president.
Sorry?
I think it was their chapter president.
No. Boyfriend. Nice job. Boyfriend. All I have to say is what an idiot, right? Funny, ha-ha, tee-hee, maybe meant for momentary share within the network, and then what happens? Blow it up. Way to do it. Blow it up. So, one of the things I want you to be aware of on emails is stop it. Cut it out. Things you can say in person don't need to be in email, and keep your emails personal, personally professional, high level, no snark, and pull that stuff back in, because that's not what you need to use your emails for or your social media or anything else. If you have something that upsets you, that's gotten you sideways with somebody else, just like in any other kind of conflict resolution, what do? You go to the person. This is exactly what this very smart man said right here. You go to the person. Now, if somebody might have said, why did this girl blow off steam like this? What might you think? What was going on in her life? Well, nobody knows exactly because nobody sat down and talked to her. She quickly resigned after this thing rolled out of control. But what people were told and what people learned later is that her mother had died very recently. Could that have upset the balance of her world? You better believe it. Would that make us be more sympathetic to a person who wrote an email like that? Maybe, maybe not. But circumstances, right? As the journalist in the front row knows, the circumstance means everything to the story. So always ask yourself, just stop. I mean, I once had a boss who said to me, and I sent her a very crabby email one time in the newsroom when I was in the newsroom, and she said, this is all she said back, she sent back a one-liner, and it said, next time you think about sending me an email like that, don't. Okay? You should write that one down because I thought that was pretty good. I've saved that forever. And it really made an impression on me because, one, not only had I lit up, gone off, she was offended, she had busier and more important things to do than listen to me whine on email, and it was really a good point. So, campus media. How many of you work with campus media at all in this room? Come on. 3 of you, 2 of you, 4 of you? All right. So that's not great. How come there aren't more of you talking to campus media?
Not really campus media.
You don't have any campus media?
Not that prominent.
Okay. But do most of you have campus media like a newspaper? Why aren't you talking to them? Nothing newsworthy? Come on, I know you got newsworthy stuff to talk about. Yes, sir.
We submit articles to them, they just don't put anything in the paper.
They do not? They don't carry it. Have you ever asked why?
Not my term.
Okay. So what did we just say about talking to the person that you're not getting a response from? How come you're not carrying that stuff? Is there something else we can do to make it more newsworthy to you? Is there a reason that, are we not meeting your deadline? Are we off the calendar some way? And I don't know what you've been sending, so difficult to say why they're not getting picked up. So that's an important thing to say, right? So everybody who does community service on their campus, and you all do community service, right? It's a tenet of what you do. Everybody does community service, right? Everybody? Okay, why aren't you getting news out of it? Anybody covering it? Anybody talking about it? It's the best story you have to tell, and you're not telling it. Why are you not telling it? Everybody in this room has a great story to tell, and you're not telling it. How come? What's holding you back? Share, tell me, what's holding you back? Why not? Okay, that's legitimate. I don't have a campus media, I don't have a presence. What else is holding you back?
Maybe we specifically don't know how to approach it. We don't know how to go about it.
That's legit. That's legit. You can get over that. 10 seconds. We can get you over that pretty fast. What else? What other reason might you not be out there? Yes, sir.
Because our campus media doesn't do much with the attorneys, we just went around them. I went to the city of Lafayette and gave it to their newspaper and they submitted it.
And did the city of Lafayette then cover what the campus media didn't?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting point. Something about media that you should know, we'll talk about it later. People like to be talked to first. If you're local, I want the story first. If campus media didn't get the story first, maybe they're, well, they didn't bother to tell us, so we must not be important. So they're talking Lafayette Press, we're not going to deal with it. So how do you deal with that? Everybody gets everything at the same time. Easy fix. If they choose not to, and the big paper covers it, that's okay because that's a great story for you and it doesn't matter. Just keep sending your stuff out. Sooner or later, something will stick. What else? What's holding us back? Yes, sir.
For a while, our newspaper was run by another fraternity, in a sense.
By another fraternity?
The majority of the members were adults.
Oh.
We had a hard time breaking through.
That's interesting. So you had a competitor running the show. They had a monopoly. That's unusual. I haven't heard that one before, but I have some suggestions for that. What else? How many of you go to your Metro Press, local TV? Anybody go to your local TV stations? Yes, sir?
We have come out to our event and film and interview people who are in the charge of.
Okay. So, and you had a community service event here in Memphis. And so, what did I ask when we walked into the room?
Where's the coverage?
Was there coverage of the community service event you did in Memphis? The answer is no. Guess why?
They called me.
Oops. We just didn't tell anybody. We forgot. We're busy. We're planning a conference. Very legit, right? We got 600 people coming into town. We got a lot of stuff to do. We didn't do it. And plus, the event itself was very important. So media kind of fell in the priority of something to do. That's okay. That's not your job. That's not your full-time job to contact media and to say, cover us. We're doing really great deeds out here. But guess what it does in the balance of things when you're talking about social media and how stuff happens? You start to, again, regain control over the conversation. People are saying more positive things about your brand and about you, and the negatives start to fall away. If you're not in that conversation, gentlemen, the negatives will always supersede, and the positives will never be told. It's like the tree falling in the woods and nobody there to see it, hear it. It means it probably didn't happen at all. Now, how do you fix what happened with no media coverage here? Doesn't mean you still can't talk to the media and send them an update. This is what we did. You've got pictures. You can send them pictures. Maybe they'll run it. Probably they won't. But that means you can take it home, go back to your social media chain, which is your chapter network, and say, hey, look at this cool project that we did in Memphis. Let's talk about how we can do something like that right here, because you're already doing cool public service projects. Everybody's doing them. The fact of the matter that stuff doesn't get covered just annoys me like to no end. And I think it's partly our own fault because we're just not telling anybody about it. Right? The minute we start talking to people and creating these relationships, it's going to be a better deal. So why? News is local. So the fact that you guys are from out of town, you're not local, but Pi Kappa Alpha's local. And because you're in town for a Pi Kappa Alpha event, that's local news, that's a local story. Right? And if they said, well, you know, it's a bunch of out-of-towners, I don't know, we got other stuff going on today, you can say, let me get you the guys who are local from Tennessee or from Memphis, if you want to localize the story even more. So everything's local, right? I mean, when you got your story in Lafayette, you had a local story, right? Local story, local angle, local news. It's all got to be local. Okay, so who has a crisis team in place at their fraternity? This is important for us to know, especially these folks in the front row. Who has a crisis team in place? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5-ish. Got a hand wave there. So why don't you have a crisis team in place? Haven't had a crisis. That's okay. If you haven't had a crisis, why would you have a crisis team in place?
I thought you asked.
Oh.
I thought you said why we have a crisis team in place.
Oh, no. Well, why do you? You must have had
there's a
one?
crisis.
Or in case. Okay, so that's pre. Yes, sir.
I mean, basically the exec board should work as everyone's crisis team if you don't have an official, because that's who they're going to look to in a situation anyway.
Yeah.
Start from there, that's what we do.
And I don't know the size of the chapters in this room. I mean, I don't know if you guys are from small chapters or from large chapters, but the bottom line is, this is true of even in corporations. Small businesses to large businesses have crisis comm teams. Small companies like mine have redundancies built in. So God forbid I get hit by a bus or something happens in my social media, there's somebody in place to take care of it or take it over or step in line for clients. Same thing with your social. All right, now here's a touchy one about social. How many people know the admin passwords for all their social operated by your chapter? Oh, that's a problem. What happens if you don't have admin access to your social, and let's say the person who does have admin access to your social and you don't have a triple redundancy built in, you need to get something out on your website or your Twitter account. Are you stuck? Nobody else can do it? Down and out? So, 3 things you should do leaving this room when you get home. Get a crisis communications team in place. It doesn't need to be more than 2 people. Chapter president and somebody else, but you should at least have 2 to 3 is what I recommend, and no bigger than 5. Very easy to do. Then when you get that team in place, give them some responsibilities and things to do. Like, you're the guy who's going to tell National this is going on. You're the guy who's going to talk to the press if we have to. And you're the guy who's going to be on social and manage the message. 3 very simple things to do. Not a problem, easy to do when you go home. Because why? Everybody's online. If it's online, it's forever. You know, even your tweets now are being archived by the Library of Congress. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Why does time matter? Because this is how fast it rolls. If you're on TV and there's a crisis, say there's an allegation of hazing, and a television reporter comes out to your chapter and you talk to them for 20 or 30 minutes because you feel like you really have a lot to say and you really want to give them all the facts, how much of that do you think is going to end up in the local TV news? Average minute 30. If they interview 3 people, let's say there's a hazing allegation, who's going to get interviewed? Your chapter, somebody at your chapter, usually the university and or the local police. That's 3 people interviewed for a minute 30. Your soundbite is going to be like this big, and it's going to be edited. So that's why you also have to be very careful about how to wrap your head around getting that information out quickly, declaratively, simply, and truthfully. Because time is really working against us these days, particularly on social. The minute somebody, I don't know if you've seen the new phones out now, you can control with your eyeballs, right? The latest phone, the S4, all you have to do is look at it, and it like makes things happen. So what if you blink, or what if you do something different with your eyeballs, or what if you didn't intend it to go there? What if your thumb goes in the wrong place? Boosh, it's out there. Now you can delete it very quickly, but it doesn't mean it's not out there, and it doesn't mean somebody else hasn't caught it. The other thing, that even if you put something out there and you want to take it back and you delete it, guess what happens? What do journalists do when something's been posted? And it's like, whoa, did that really embarrass them? Screenshot. What do they do with the screenshot? Put it in an article. Where's the article go? Online. So even if you've deleted it, it's there forever. Something to think about when you're out there in social media. So this is the way it used to be for old school people like me, right? Facebook was a book. Pinterest was actually a bulletin board. All this stuff where you guys are on top of the game because you're in social media, you know where things need to be and how fast things go. So that's why you're an asset here, because you can make things happen very quickly on the proactive side, the good PR side, and pushing your message out for things like community service. Social. This is how fast social goes. I was in the airport the other day and I was looking at the cover of I think it was Forbes or something, and already one of these numbers is out of date. That's how fast those numbers get out of date, and it's crazy. So for anybody who's not on Google+, in case you're not thinking about that one, Google+ is now way ahead of Twitter, pushing ahead of Twitter. So as soon as we get really, really comfortable with a platform, we start to move into another platform, and then another platform kind of takes over. Yes, sir? Oh, 5 minutes, okay. So what happens also here is that you vest a lot in one particular platform, and then already you find out you have to move on to something else. So for my business, I'm already over Facebook. I like Twitter a lot more. I'm getting into Google+. Just stuff you have to be aware of. So we're going to do a do list and a don't list. So here's your do list. Anybody get emails, phone calls, tweets from media? What do you generally do when you get them? Okay, but you try to make sure you get back to them as soon as you can, right? So you don't dodge it, you get back as soon as you can. If you don't know what they want, you say, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. What's your deadline? What's your deadline is always the magic phrase. What's your deadline? Why? Because probably you're dealing with mostly student journalists, so they have classes, they have other stuff they got to deal with. You've got classes, you've got other stuff you've got to deal with, right? So that's the struggle. You got to juggle that stuff around and get to where you need to go. Also, use somebody who's comfortable. If somebody says, I don't want to talk to the media, don't use them. Use somebody who's more comfortable talking to the media and who will feel comfortable doing an interview. And an interview is all about very simple things. What are they, Mr. Journalist in the front row? What are the 5 things people ask you?
I'm not sure about that.
Who, what, why, when, where, and how? Who, what, why, when, where, and how? That's all they need to know. When is the event? Who's participating? How's it going to be conducted? Formula. It's a formula, and it's as simple as that, because news is all about those questions. The other thing people do a lot is, like, say, for example, you'll take a phone call. Maybe it is a crisis comm situation. You'll call national, and you go, you know what? The local TV station called. What local TV station? I don't remember. It was a guy named Jim. What Jim? Jim who? Jim, it might be Channel 14. What's Channel 14? What's the affiliate? Is that CBS or NBC? Nobody thinks like that when they're talking to somebody to gather up that information, but it's important stuff to gather because why? Maybe your national organization needs to monitor the situation. Maybe you need to monitor the situation. Maybe you need to follow up more with who that John or Jim was from the local TV station. And then also ask, where's it going to go? Now, some people take that the wrong way when you ask a journalist that, but usually you can say, is it going online? Because that means, they may need something faster. If they say, no, my deadline's 5 or 7, and they're a print reporter, it's probably going to go tomorrow, but it also probably means they need to post it or do something with it online or tweet it out or link it. So, bad stuff to do always at the bottom. Don't be rude, don't argue, don't get into a war back and forth. The people who own the pen or the handle or whatever they're using to publish their news always have the last say. You do not. Key messages and why they matter. Exactly what we talked about with branding at the beginning, right? You can always come back to something that's important about your fraternity and important to say. You know what the brand messages are because you defined them and you outlined them all when we sat down. Scholarship, leadership, right? Community service. You know what those things are. So technically, you are a walking subject matter expert for your fraternity, and all you need to do is turn that on. I am the subject matter expert. Just remember that when you go into an interview. I'm the person who knows all about my fraternity and how it works and how it's run. Not the person who's coming in to talk to me who's like a blank slate. So just own that content because you are the subject matter expert. And again, we mentioned this, tweets are archived in the Library of Congress. Video may be fleeting, but video's online. We're going to show you some videos at the takeaway this afternoon. And then apologize. I think a couple people mentioned this. The art of the public apology. Who does this the best? Politicians. Why do politicians apologize as much as they do? Why do you think? Good thing or bad thing to apologize if you're a politician? Good thing, why?
Well, you want to answer?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, well, if you apologize, that means like you're accepting responsibility and people are more willing to forgive you versus just like hiding it under the rug.
What would a reasonable person do? Just what we said as we started. What would a reasonable person do when they make a mistake? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's all it takes. If it's a very serious consequence, it may take more than that, but the reason politicians apologize in the public manner in the format they do is because they want the story to go away. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's worth investing in a public apology for the circumstances that you're looking at. Also, we have a lot of media criticism that goes out occasionally from our interfraternal groups and our partners. It's not wise, it doesn't work, it always backfires. And frankly, I don't think it follows our tenets of professional behavior or our creeds. For sorority women, we have a Panhellenic creed. Probably for fraternity men, there's something very similar, and you should follow it. Here's some resources for you. You can get this PowerPoint, I think, through your organization if you need this kind of stuff. And also, for the guys who don't have a crisis team in place, the NIC has this, Pi Kappa Alpha has it. It's a very brief and simple guide. And in the back, if you don't want to read it, and I don't blame you, it's a few pages long, just go to the back 2 pages, and it tells you steps 1 through 10, how to put together your crisis team and what to do about it in the event you're in a crisis. Because I'll tell you what, they're going to knock on your door first, not on nationals, and you're going to be the first guys who get the call. So we hope to see you at our topic in the afternoon. This afternoon we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to look at video. We're going to look at a Pi Kappa Alpha video in particular. We're going to look at a mock interview we also did with an NPC executive and give you some how to get ready for the media when they present and come your way. Thanks very much. Thank you for sitting up front.
Yeah, no problem. Definitely another round of applause for Kyle as a giver of this recognition and appreciation.
Thank you.
Yeah.